Finding Your Story with special guest Shannon Peel.
Today's episode is brought to you by Canva. When we finally decided to grow our social media presence, Canva was the only option. I tried dozens of alternatives, but I had to admit that nothing else comes close. We use Canva for social images, print-on-demand designs, and tons more at Serve No Master. Grab a free account today at servenomaster.com/Canva.
Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss and start living your retirement dreams now, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Serve No Master Podcast, where you'll learn how to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host.
Shannon, I'm really excited to talk to you because this is something that I think a lot of new entrepreneurs struggle with, which is when should they start thinking about their story and brand? I see a lot of people, especially over the last few years, talking about personal branding when they don't have any audience. And often reminds me of those people that they start getting patents before they find out if anyone wants to buy their invention. And so I wonder, as someone who's really an expert in this area, when did you start becoming passionate about the idea of branding and storytelling for entrepreneurs?
Well, I started talking about personal branding way back when I was looking for work. Just as not even as an entrepreneur, but as a job seeker, needing that personal brand in order to let employers know who I was and what I was about. That was way back. I don't even want to say how long ago. So, we've always had a personal brand. You've always had a story, and it's there. It's online. It's searchable. And whether it is wanting to be a better career or get a job or start your own business or get known as an expert in your field, it's really important to understand what it is that you want people to know about you so that you can tell that story. Because a lot of times when we're telling our personal brand story on social media, blog posts, podcasts like this, on video channels, we tell this story and that story and this story and that story. And then our audiences get confused. And that's why you don't have an audience, because nobody really knows what you're about. And it's not so much if you have an audience right now, it's what's searchable when you do have an audience. So it's not all on social media. And that is a problem in that people think it's all about social media, and it's not. Your personal brand story or your business brand story is throughout your digital footprint.
I think that's really interesting. I've done a lot of work in the job seeker space, and it's something that what's interesting to me is a lot of job seekers don't think about anything until they lose their job, right? You can always tell when someone's lost their job because they start updating the LinkedIn profile, and suddenly they're reaching out to you again to say, hey, what are you up to? Do you know anyone in this industry? And I've always felt that people should, even if they don't want to be an entrepreneur, treat their career like entrepreneurship, because you can do a lot of things, jumping between companies, building better networking skills, kind of forming relationships before you're looking for a job so that you have that network there when the time is there. And that type of branding makes a lot of sense to me, because how can you differentiate yourself when 50 other people have the same qualifications? More and more people have the same qualifications. Whenever I post a job opening, it's very hard to differentiate anyone at the resume level. They all seem like the same person now. Just like I remember when I was applying for colleges, everyone had to have these activities. Nobody in high school, I think, actually wants to do archery. They just think it makes them look better on the resume. You have these activities you do to hope to get into a better college, even though you don't like them. So I really get that. But my question is, for someone who is starting an online business, starting entrepreneurship, and how much should they worry about those things that are out there? Because it makes sense to me. I've seen people lose their jobs because their boss found something they did 20 years ago online. They found an old MySpace profile. People don't realize they're all still up. MySpace profiles were all still there, even though we haven't logged in. I looked at mine recently and I still listed my top friends. I was like, wow, I haven't logged in this 20 years ago, but the page is still there. So that really makes sense to me for someone where the employer, right, the potential hirer, the HR department has so much power over you. But is it as important, this, I guess, background stuff for someone who's an entrepreneur?
Well, it depends on what type of entrepreneur you are and how much your reputation means to the customers, and what type of customers are you going after. If you're coming across as a knowledge person or as highly ethical, and the marketplace has customers that are, your ideal customer is smart. They like to research. They like to find out more information. They're the people that are going to be digging. And when they dig and they find something that is not in line with what you say you are, then they're going to go, oh, well, I don't trust this person, because they're not looking for reasons to trust you. They're looking for reasons to not hire you and not trust you, because it's easier to sort people out than it is to sort people in. And then it's whoever ends up in the end kind of wins. It's the same whether or not you're getting a job or an entrepreneur, because most entrepreneurs, okay, well, let's first define entrepreneur, because I'm thinking solopreneur. So a solopreneur is very much about the personal brand and the personal thing. Entrepreneur, where it's a business and you may have employees and you're building a brand outside of yourself, same thing, because the brand is a person. A brand is its own entity, and it has to be known for something. And whatever you're building around that information is going to be searchable. And then, people might go, oh, well, who is the owner of this company? What are they about? Especially if you're going out and looking for VC money or trying to get investors, because they're not investing in the company. They're investing in you as the CEO of that company. So it's very important that you have that trust built, good story, really strong throughout the digital footprint, and that they know what you want to be known for. That it's very clear about who you are and what you're about, what your values are, what you've done in the past, and what they can expect from you in the future.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me for like investors or raising money, that they'll do that deep level background search. But when it comes to customers, I think that there's this idea that customers do a lot of research, when I don't think that they do.
Well, it depends on the customer. Like I said, it depends on your ideal customer, right? Because my mom, who took 3 years to find a car, was researching every Honda that came across, because Honda and Toyota. She had 2 companies that she was looking at, and she researched every vehicle that she liked for 3 years before she finally bought something, because she's a deep researcher, and she will go out and she will find that information. Myself, I have a need, I have a problem, I just want the solution. If you tell me that you've got the solution and I like what that says, I'm going to buy it. So you're right. There are different types of customers out there, and you have to know which customer is ideal for you. And then you have to be where they are on their customer journey. And you have to make sure that your brand story ends up where they're going to be looking.
Yeah, I know people search a company name or brand name. Definitely. I was still thinking about the personal branding thing. Like, I'm wondering if there was something terrible out there about me, if anyone would ever notice it. That's what I'm really thinking about. I'm imagining that if there's something personal about me.
Oh,
because I have such a common name. This is something I think about. It's really hard to find me. I'm like the 7th most famous Jonathan Green. There's a really famous painter. Then there's 2 more famous authors. One who writes teen angst movies, A Fault in Our Stars. That's by Jonathan Green. There's another one who writes science fiction. So it's hard. Unless you are really looking for me and my brand, then you find me. If you type in the brand, all the results are me. So I was thinking about that as the personal branding. But now that we're switching to company branding, I do know that there are a certain number of people that will search for, and there's those websites that like list negative reviews. And they are out there. I forget the name of them because one of my friends dealt with that for a while. And those companies are completely a scam, because what they do is they message you and they say, hey, for $10,000, we'll take down this negative review. So, and yet people trust those websites.
They can't.
Oh no, it's the website itself that messages
you. The thing is, well, then that is a complete scam, because really, I worked in the online review industry for 3 years for the Angie's List of Canada. And it was my job to basically educate about 300 clients on the importance of reviews, how to get reviews, how to deal with negative reviews. And those reputable sites, you can't get those negative reviews off. If they're real, if they come back with the thing, an invoice saying, look, I was a customer and this is my opinion about this product or this service, it will stay up. But here's the thing, a negative review is not a bad thing. And this is a problem with a lot of small business owners, medium-sized business owners, where they don't really get it. They don't understand that a bad review is not a bad thing. They think that, oh, I got one bad review and now people aren't going to hire me. And that's not the truth. What it comes down to is maybe people like that person aren't going to hire you because they're looking for this expectation. And the review tells them that if they're looking for this, they're not going to get it because you don't provide that. Negative reviews come in because you didn't meet an expectation, whether it was a communicated expectation or a not communicated expectation. The customer had an expectation that they were going to get A, but you don't do A. It just wasn't really clearly communicated. It was an assumption. And when that happened, you get a bad review. Or maybe you did make a big mistake and the whole thing was a mess, but you tried to fix it. And the customer is just one of those types of people who is perfect or you're done. Or there's the customers out there that will try and say, hey, you give me a discount or I'm going to write you a bad review. Never give them a discount if they say that they're going to write a bad review. Here's the thing. Back in the day, as you can tell, I got gray hair. I was around before the internet. And back in the day, when somebody had a bad experience with a company, they would go out and tell 10, 20 people, right? We always knew that when somebody was happy, they might tell 1 or 2. When somebody was unhappy, they'd be telling 10 or 20. But here's the thing. You never knew that they were telling those bad things about you. You were not at the table. Not only that, you couldn't bring your posse of happy customers to offset that one unhappy customer. You can do that now on online review sites. So you get a bad review. Great, fine. You know what? It authenticates the other 10 good reviews that you got. Because if I come in as a consumer and I look and I see that you have 100 10 out of 10s, one of the first things I'm going to think in this cynical world of ours is that that's not a real representation of who you are as a company in regards to customer service. Because we all know things go bad. And if I'm reading reviews, I'm looking for those details, that information that's going to tell me what I can expect from you. And if things go wrong, do you back up your work? Or are you one of those fly-by-night people who, when things go wrong, all of a sudden you ghost me and I don't know anything about it, and you never hear from you again? That's the kind of stuff that people are looking for when it comes to online reviews. So if you get a bad review, you just respond to it and you say, hey, you know what? This is what I understand how frustrated you were. I was frustrated too, because I want to provide you with this, but we don't do that. And I'm sorry that wasn't communicated clearly, but now I know that is an expectation, or that people may have assumed that. So thank you for letting me know that. And I hope that but the person I gave you is able to help you out with that. So, I did give you a solution. Or perhaps there's someone that is trying to, get that discount. You say, well, look, it went great. It went fine. Everything was great until you said that you were going to give me a bad review if I didn't give you a discount. And well, I guess that's just a bad review. Thanks. You can call them out on it a little bit. You can highlight the customer service that you do have. You can let people know how you did what the problem was, how you stood by your work. And those are good things. One bad review, you bring 5 good reviews with it, and it balances it out.
So you're mostly talking about service-based businesses here, right? Like where the reviews.
Well, it's the same with the product business. If I buy, let's say I buy, a computer. I want to know when I'm reading those reviews, I want to know, is this computer going to do what I need it to do? Or is it going to break down? I'm looking for those same stories in those products. I'm looking to find out, does a company stand by its warranty? If this breaks, will it break easily? And if it breaks easily, will the company refund my money or give me is there any service behind that product? Like when my mom's looking for the car, she wants to know certain things about the vehicle to know whether or not it's a vehicle for her. And she finds that information not in the company's marketing, She finds that information in the reviews and the stories that people write about their experiences with that product or that company service.
What percentage of customers do you think go through that more in-depth research process? Because I have customers who the very first time they visit my website, they make a high ticket purchase within the 20 minutes of their first visit. So they see the entire story, the experiences within the website. So I'm used to that part of the brand story. What percentage of people do you think, especially in the digital marketing space? Because I see so many people, they follow someone on Twitter, they make a big purchase or a stock purchase, or were investing in NFTs last year because someone they like in sports, it says, oh, this is my new favorite NFT, or this is my new favorite crypto coin, right? We see people making these really quick decisions in a much shorter decision-making cycle than I do. That's not how I make decisions. But we see people make these really quick decisions. How many people are, which you're describing to me as like the sophisticated consumer? Because I remember when I was in my early 20s, I went to a car dealership and someone said, oh, this car has won all these awards. And they said they said the name of the magazine. I forget, it's this famous car magazine. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I went and looked online. The car magazine was like, this car is trash. So he actually lied about this magazine. I was like, oh, wow, really? This car review magazine was like, this car is terrible. Don't get it. It's the worst car reviewed in years. And he was saying they gave him a bad review. So I wonder how many people fell for that, right? Like they don't do enough research to even find out if someone's claims are true. So how many people are this type of sophisticated consumer, especially in like the information spaces or the e-commerce spaces, more than the physical product space? Most of my audience is more digital products.
Okay, not a problem. Because what it comes down to is the type of consumer. So we have three types of consumers. We have the ones that are the early adopters. These are the people that love new things, are always looking for that next thing. These are the people that see the NFT, they don't want to miss out. They have this big fear of missing out. So they buy things because they want to know, hey, I didn't miss out on this deal. I didn't miss out on this opportunity. I did not miss out on anything. And these are, it's like that bell curve. It's the same idea. So the bell curve is we have a few people who are early adopters. And they go out and they buy things. They buy the latest everything. They're the ones in line waiting for the next iPad or iPhone or whatever. You're going to have those early adopters. They're going to have very specific ways of making decisions, and very few of it has to do with the actual details of the brand, of the product or the brand, because it's everything to do with, how does this brand make me look? How is this going to make me look to my people? Am I going to look like I'm smart, I'm with it, I'm the next future forward person? Then I'm going to want to have a piece of that. So you've got those types of purchasers. And that's where you're talking about the NFT world, the crypto world. But these are people who are also in that world. So just because they're not looking specifically for information about your brand or the product that you're selling, they're in that world. They're already digesting information about those types of products. Now they're just looking for which one of those products are they going to go with. And that's when you're back on your website where you're going, okay, how do I get these guys to identify? But if you're already part of that conversation earlier in the customer journey, when they first learn about cryptocurrency or they first learn about NFTs, and you're part of that conversation, then your brand, it already has recognition for them. So when it comes down to deciding which of these 5 options are they going to go with, it is a really quick and easy decision because, oh, look, I know that guy because I've seen his name around the community. I've seen his name around the industry. So it may not be that they're reading those reviews, and it may not be that they're reading every article that you write, but they're seeing your brand name show up in forums. They're seeing your brand name show up on social media. They're seeing your brand name show up in those magazines or being quoted or whatever it is. They see you before they go and make that decision. And that's what I mean by being where the customer is along their journey. Yes, their journey might be really short or their journey might be really long, but you have to know which journey your customers are going to be on. Is your ideal customer going to make that snap decision? Great. But how do they get to that point? Where are they hanging out? Make sure that you are where they're hanging out so that they can make that snap decision, and it's your brand that they're choosing and not your competitors or someone else's. When it comes to the what you would say sophisticated or the regular investor, the ones that buy once the product has been tested, once cryptocurrency becomes the norm, the people that get cell phones when there's 3 cell phone companies out there, this is the majority of people. Just like any bell curve, this is the majority of people. And they've watched different brands. They've watched the story unfold, but they're not ready to make a decision. And then they go in and they make that decision. And then you have the last and the end. And these are the people that will buy cryptocurrency and NFTs when they're over and done. It's too late. And once again, that's a very small portion of the population. You just have to know where your business fits within those customers and understand their customer journey, and then make sure that your brand story is showing up on those platforms that they go to. So when they have to make that decision, they've already recognized your brand. They already trust you because they've seen you enough times.
Let's talk about that, because now you're into something that's very interesting to me, is the second type of customer, because this is the process we're going through with my company right now. We're really doing well with the first type of customer, but it's only about, and that's, I also sometimes I call them the emotional buyer, the person who buys because they want it. They're in the emotion, the excitement, right? That feeling of excitement. And then the second phase customer needs more familiarity. I think that's what you're talking about. They see you a bunch. Like they used to say, oh, you have to see an ad so many times before you kind of notice it, right? And that familiarity.
But even for the emotional buyer, okay, they may not need to see your ad 7 times. They might not need to see you 11 times. They may only need to see you 2 or 3 times, but they still have this need to know that your product and your service is going to fulfill that need that they have in that moment, even if it is emotional, if it is about fear of missing out, if it's about status. They need to know that you're going to fulfill that emotional need. And they don't know that just from one look at a website. They've seen you somewhere. They've gotten to your website somehow. There is a journey. There are other platforms that they've been to before they get to you.
So we're doing really well with that type of customer. That's where most of our business comes from, my most recent projects. The second type of customer who needs that more familiar, more than 2 or 3 touches. Talk to me about that. How can you become, because this is something that I think falls almost into the category of authority. It's like if someone sees you on Fox News or CNN, whichever the political spectrum is, enough times, they go, oh, you must be an expert, right? You become the perception of expertise, right? And you can start writing books and doing all these things. And then people find out that you're not actually a doctor. Doctor's your nickname, which I've seen before, which I can't believe you're allowed to do. But I've seen that where someone goes, oh, I'm not really a doctor. It's just my nickname. Yeah, but they build this authority, or it's like, oh, my friends just call me doctor, right? And it's like, okay, but you can establish authority through appearing in places. How can someone start that process? What are the ways or the places you should appear that will make, I guess, create awareness or familiarity in the right way with that attached authority?
Well, now you're talking where I live. Okay. I live in that authority and credibility part of the funnel. See, there's different funnels. So the funnel that you were talking about before, that's top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel. That's a really short customer journey. Boom, boom, boom. I've seen your brand. I look to see if whether or not you're going to be able to give it to me, and then I buy. Now we're talking about a brand. We're talking about branding. We're talking about the difference between Apple being 30 years ago and Apple today. We're talking about building that authority, that being the brand of choice, which gives customers that feeling of, hey, you're going to make me look good. I know that the Honda isn't going to break down every time. I know that the Toyota is going to give me good fuel mileage because that's what I know, that's what they're known for. So the first thing you need to figure out as a brand is, what is it that you want to be known for? What is it? What problem does your customer have that you solve? And every time they have that problem, you want to be the brand that they think of to go to solve it. What is it? What is it that you want to be known for? Once you know what you want to be known for, then you got to start writing about it and talking about it, getting on podcasts, getting into video, having a video channel, writing those blog posts, because of course you want Google to know that that's what you're known for too. Because if Google knows that that's what you're known for, Google will start sending you traffic, and organic traffic will spend a lot more time on your website than anything from Twitter. You know those keywords, like you understand what you want to be known for. So you choose a narrow thing of keywords, and you talk about those things on your social media platforms. You go into those forums where people are talking about that specific topic. You go in and you get a PR agent or someone like me, or you work with, if you want to do it yourself, you work with something like Presley and get all the email addresses of every journalist that writes about that particular product, and you send them press releases. You try to make a relationship with them so that if they're going to write a story about that, they contact you for a quote. You create on your website, hey, this is where we've been seen in the media. You share all that media that you're getting on your social media, so people start seeing your brand over and over again. And for example, I've been quoted in Forbes, and then I was quoted in Reader's Digest. Those brand names then give me an authority, right? Because people understand those brand names. They think, oh, well, if I'm good enough to be quoted by a journalist who's writing for those publications, then I must know what I'm talking about. Same with Sprout Social, or, Sprout Social is a website, but because it is a platform of social media, because I've been quoted by somebody on the blog for Sprout Social, it shows that I'm an expert because somebody else is saying I'm an expert. I'm not going out and saying, well, right at this moment I am, but I'm not the one running around saying, hey, this. Other people are quoting me and giving the market proof that I know what I'm talking about. But you have to have that authority platform, whether it's a blog, a podcast like you have right now, a video channel, a book, a magazine, whatever it is that you enjoy doing. And your customers, the big thing, your customers like to consume content in that manner or utilizing that medium. So if your ideal customer doesn't enjoy listening to podcasts, but you enjoy having podcasts, you either need to change your ideal customer, or you need to figure out how your ideal customer consumes content and make sure you're building an authority platform there. And when basically what you're doing is you're educating them, teaching them, talking about, hey, it was in this news story about whatever. And you can say, hey, look, I disagree, or I agree, or this is what my opinion is. And you let people know what it is that you know. And a lot of times people go, okay, I have a problem. I need a solution. This guy seems to know what he's talking about. It's not about the fact that you wrote a book. It's the fact that you knew enough information to put into 200 pages. No, people may not ever read the book, but the fact that you were able to fill 200 pages with information, he must know what he's talking about. That's what it comes down to.
So a lot of that is stuff that people encounter on your website, right? They see the Forbes logo or the Reader's Digest logo. They don't see it in Reader's Digest first and come to you very often, right? It's not often the PR traffic, but I have an idea that I'm wondering about for someone new. The challenge, right? It's really hard. Even if I've been doing this a long time, even getting into some of those similar sites, either you pay to play, and I know they all have that part where you can pay to get an article up, or you have to kind of get picked up by an article. I certainly know someone who does it at Forbes. So I do know someone who does it there. Like every one of these companies has a dark underbelly, I guess you could say, right? That you're finding out. Yes. Spotify has a thing going on that's coming out right now. Same thing with Instagram. It turns out you can buy the blue check mark. But there's always that part of it, right? And the unethical side. And then there's the ethical side, which is where you constantly submit. And only recently, I've been doing this for 13 years. Only in the last 6 months have I started getting picked up by these bigger sites for articles. And
now, are you doing, you're doing guest blogging and articles, correct? That is a much bigger step than what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having somebody that is a writer for Forbes just quote you in their article.
No, that is what I'm talking about. I get picked up a lot I use Haro, Help a Reporter Out. I used to never get picked. You do these submissions, no one pays attention. Now I get picked a high percentage of the time because I have enough reputation, best-selling book. But I want to dive into the beginner, someone who's just starting out. They're not going to get picked.
You have to, no, but you have to, okay, so you have to get that authority site done first. You have to show that you know enough information. You have to either get that book written, you have to have that blog with enough posts, you have to have the podcast with enough episodes, you have to have the video with enough videos, and you have to have social media with enough followers. So you have to start somewhere. You have to start by saying, okay, first thing I need to do is brand awareness. Where do we get brand awareness? We get brand awareness in social media. So start building your social media following. But once again, you have to know what you want to be known for. So you're posting about what you want to be known for, but you're going out and engaging people who are already known for that. So if you want to get known for social media, you find those gurus in social media, you see what they're posting, and you just make comments on their posts. And as you do that, you will build up your own following who will then see your posts about social media. And then you'll get known as that social media person. But you have to have enough content, and that takes time. I mean, it's taken me 4 years to get to where I am today. And that's with a lot of content. This isn't something that's overnight. It's not like you can all of a sudden go, hey, I'm an expert and everybody thinks I'm an expert. It takes time to get there, but you have to build where customers are first. You can build up your website and build your blog post so that Google sees you and that you have a place to send traffic from your social media. But you have to go where the public is first, whether that's on social media, a forum, or one of those, or a closed community. Make sure that you are being seen by engaging with other people's work. Then other people will see you. They will start following you because they think that you must know what you're talking about because they liked the comment that you made. They liked the insight that you had about that person's article or that person's comment or post. So you have to engage with these people.
Now that advice has been around since I started. The post in forums, post in comments.
It works, but nobody does it.
That's what I was going to say. I haven't read a comment on anything on social media in more than a decade. And I'm also not my ideal customer or most people's ideal customer. Mm-hmm. So what I wonder is that's a very slow process. And now there's so much traffic and there's so much content on social media. Who's really reading the comments? Because the most popular people on social media, they have hundreds of thousands of comments on a post. No one's reading them. It's impossible to keep up. Now it's like
the person who posted.
There's this.
The person who posted.
Okay. So that's what I want to talk about.
If you make a post and I comment on that post and I do it enough times and you start seeing me enough times and then I comment and then I send you a DM and I say, hey, you know what? I love your work. Hey, I'd love to talk to you about social media. Then you go, okay. And all of a sudden then you have this relationship with this person who may be an influencer, maybe 10 steps ahead of you as a micro influencer. But then they start going, okay, well, let's get you. And then they want to help you out and they start maybe commenting back. But you have to find the right person, the right people. And you find the right people by engaging, by getting out there and doing it. Now, it will build. I mean, I did a test in the summer where I just spent 30 minutes engaging with other people's content. And I didn't do anything else. I posted, but I would engage with other people's content for 30 minutes. And I built my following by, let's say I had 333, the last three numbers were 333, and now it's 890. So, it does build. But you're right, it does take time. I mean, the people that go out there and say, hey, I got 10,000 followers in 3 months. Yeah, no, those aren't good followers. Those aren't even your ideal customers. You have to figure out who your ideal customer is and go and comment on their posts. Figure out who your ideal customer is and get to know them. So if journalists, because you want to get into their articles, you comment on their stuff. They will see it. And then when you respond in a Herald, they'll go, oh yeah, I remember that guy.
So what I'm interested in is a faster process. I'm always trying to find the shortcut. So
we're all trying to find the shortcut, my dear. And the shortcut, I'm going to tell you, it's cash. If you have enough cash, you can get known in 10 days.
Right. So I want to talk about another shortcut. Well, for example, let's say, right, you want to get picked up, you choose the 100 authors or article writers at the different places. You pick 3 people at Forbes, 3 people at Inc., 3 people at Fortune. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you build out your hit list of 100 people. Most of those people are always trying to get a different type of fame. Everyone I know who writes articles wishes they were writing books. Everyone who's writing books wishes they were being on television. So let's imagine that you want to start getting picked up by these people and having them quote you. Starting out, you're new. And can you establish your authority by, say, launching a YouTube channel or launching a podcast interview like this format, where you then interview all of those people and use that to forge the relationship and to shortcut the process? Because
yes, that's a big piece of having a podcast, having that YouTube channel, is that people want to be interviewed. Especially if all they do is interview other people all day. They want someone to listen to them for once.
So let's say, right, you figure out, that's one format, the kind of traditional media format. Let's say you figure out, these are the 20 people on social media who I want them to mention me. Would a shorter cycle to the process be that you start interviewing smaller people, then larger people through introduction, then larger people, so that you interview them on your show, then you give them pieces of content? Is that a shorter cycle than the comment and hope they notice strategy?
If you want to use your podcast or your video channel to meet these people and have these conversations without doing the whole engaging with them and everything, I have interviewed some pretty amazing people on my podcast. I did 100 episodes in 100 days in the spring. I interviewed I interviewed a Wall Street Journal editor. I've interviewed CEOs of big name companies. I've interviewed people who have done some pretty crazy things, like the True Earth commercial for that laundry detergent that has no liquid in it. You meet people I've met people from that run ad companies on Madison Avenue, and you have these really great conversations with them, and then you don't hear from them again. They may have mentioned that they were on your podcast, but that's the end of the relationship. So you have to build the relationship, and there is no shortcut to building a relationship. And if you think there's a shortcut to building a relationship, please let me know. So hey, if it works, I'll get married again. But it takes a lot of effort to have a relationship with anyone, including virtually.
Okay. Well,
so you just have to build a relationship.
This has been very interesting. Where can people see more about what you do, see more of kind of your approach to relationship building and how they can start to forge their online brand and identity?
Well, you just go to marketappeal.com and you'll see, when I come up, marketappeal.agency, it's one of those things that we're in the middle of changing the domain name. But you go to marketappeal.com and you will see that I have a magazine, I have a podcast, I have the blog, and all this information is there to help you connect with people virtually. But the key is you have to make that connection in the real world, because that's where opportunity lives.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here. We'll make sure to put the links in the show notes. I know people are going to find this really interesting.
Thank you for listening to the Serve Master podcast. Get a free copy of my bestseller, Fire Your Boss, right now on Amazon. Go to servermaster.com/getfire, or just search Fire Your Boss on Amazon.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Serve No Master podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next week with more tips and tactics on how to escape the rat race. Please take a moment to leave a review at servenomaster.com/iTunes. It helps the show grow, and more listeners means more content for you. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.